This is a aerial shot of the Naval Air Station at New Orleans. Here's where the Air Force hangar is and our ramp. And here's the Belle Chase Highway coming down here. Here's the Mississippi River. Bay High Street. Let's see, here's the C train. Here's Bay High Street right here because there's the church right across the street. Our house is right at where I'm pointing here on the map, if you can see it in the video there. This is the Intercoastal Canal over here. And of course this is the Mississippi River here. This is an aerial view of our hangar area at the Naval Air Station. You can see all the 119s that's on the ramp. This is the Air National Guard area over here. Here's the Mississippi River. And our house is right along this area where the boat is in the river. Well, here's the sea train right there. I see it. So our house is about right there, right along in here. That's how close we live to the Naval Air Station. This is the old airfield here. They called it Alvin Callender Field. When they made the new air station, they made these new runways and abandoned these. They just used these for go-kart races and that sort of thing. I had to take a picture of my ribbons and wings and all that jazz. I don't even have my clusters that I should have on those. That's me in a C119. After we sold the Thunderbird, we bought this 69 Buick Electra. And we had to take it out to the base and take pictures of it out there around the airplanes. This is on the Air Force ramp there at the Naval Air Station. That's from my office. That was my view out the windows. I could watch everything take off and land out there. This is C119 over New Orleans. I'm flying the airplane. Notice let's see, here's the Plaza Towers right here. So the dome, the Superdome, would be right here. Notice it's not there. Here's that same day when we was taking pictures. I flew over the Naval Air Station and they took a picture of us over the ramp there. Here's our hangar here, and here's the C-119s on the ramp. Here's the Navy end of the field. That's the Navy hangar. Here's the golf course. This is the Intercoastal Canal right here. Just off the picture to the right up here would be the Belle Chase Tunnel. Same day taking pictures. Another shot out over the swamp area of of the New Orleans area, real close to the Naval Air Station. Another aerial shot of New Orleans. See only one bridge across here. And let's see. Here's Canal Street right here, I believe. Yeah, that's Canal Street. This is Tulane. The dome is right here in this area here. Of course, you can see it's not there. Well, let me see. Here's Lee Circle. Here's Lee Circle right here. So the dome is over here. Over here in this area. That same picture taken today with aircraft 103. Let's see if I can orientate you to the Jackson Square. Is right here. Right here in this area here is where the French Quarter is. I think that might be the Jackson Brewery building right there. Took a trip to El Paso on one cross country and on into Vegas, and these were some of the passengers I had. I don't remember their names except one of them is Sessoms. This is General Sessoms here. He's another general, but I don't remember his last name. We put travel stickers on the airplane just for kicks. Act like tourists. This is back when we had the Thunderbird out at the base again, taking pictures around the airplanes. There's Donnie, Judy, and Hugh DeForest. Then we got the Electra later on. That was a 69 Electra Buick. I should know his name. I think it's Bauer. I can't put a name with that other one. The only time I damaged an airplane, the gear wouldn't go up or down after I took off from the Naval Air Station. This was in 1965, as I recall. And I had to land with the gear up at Brookley Air Force Base over at Mobile. And of course we left the nose gear down, but the main gear we retracted it, so we landed on the belly part in the back. And you notice the foam, they had to put about 2,000 feet of foam down, and we landed in it. The idea was to eliminate any fire hazard as long as we stayed in the foam. Here's the gear that gave us the problem. When we took off that morning, put the gear up, that's as far as it came up. It wouldn't go up any further, it wouldn't go down from that position. 6 hours later, we landed at Brookley Air Force Base in that foam. We flew for 6 hours to burn off the fuel, so we'd have minimum fuel in case any fire broke out. I think that's me up there in the airplane. I think we're going to Alaska at this time. And we were number 24 in the mission to Alaska. Why can't I say his name? He's one of the flight engineers, but I can't say his name at the moment. He's one of the engineers there at the Naval Air Station at New Orleans. This is on the trip coming back from Alaska. On this particular leg, that's General Gusky in the left seat over here, and that's Colonel Davidson in the right seat. And I'm behind them, making sure they don't get into any trouble. One of the things we did, drop loads out of the airplane that came down by parachute. Also carried fish around on the airplane. Whenever we'd go for a fishing trip, those guys come over here from Ellington or San Antonio, take them fishing. I'd carry their fish to them in the aircraft. Don't let that get around. The next airplane we flew after the 119 was the C130. And this is one of our New Orleans C130s. Notice the NO on the tail. Notice this camouflaging is in the shape of Louisiana on the tail section back here. Notice the camouflaging here is in the shape of a pelican with the NO. That's on our ramp there at the Naval Air Station. An aerial shot looking out at number 4 engine on the airplane. That's the pylon fuel tank out there beyond the engine. We're up in the neighborhood of between 20 and 25,000 feet is where we usually flew. We were on a trip to Las Vegas. That was our rented car. We were in this motel here, which was down at the beginning of the strip area. The Sahara casino was practically the next block, I think. Aerial shot of the C119 over the swamp area around the Naval Air Station out there. Another one. This is the A model 130 is what we had there at the Naval Air Station. Notice it had 3 blades on the prop. Later versions of the 130 had 4 blades. This is how the aircraft looked before they put the radar dome out there, more of a radar nose dome. They called this the grasshopper model. It didn't have that protruding radome. We didn't have any of those aircraft. This is an Ellington airplane. I think we're at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base at the museum up there. This is a B-25 here. B-25 Mitchell bomber. That's the aircraft I flew in advanced training at La Junta, Colorado. I enjoyed that airplane very much. Here's a P-38 back here. I don't know what this airplane is that we're under, but it has a German marking on it, so it must be a German aircraft in the museum there. This is a B-17. I flew that at Hobbs, New Mexico, is where I went through transition training in that airplane. And then I flew it on Guam when I went overseas in the rescue squadron over there. That's when they had the boat slung underneath that I was supposed to drop to somebody that needed rescuing. Here's a B-24 over here, which we'll see in a later picture. Here it is, the B-24, called the Strawberry Bitch. John Ramey is very familiar with this airplane, and the B-25 that I showed you a moment ago. He was tail gunner on these airplanes. Another shot of the B-24. World War II type bomber. Here's the B-17 over here to the right. Both of those were the main bombers in World War II. The B-29 didn't come along till towards the end of the war, which I was also in. Here's a C119 that's got all the camouflage paint on it. And notice it has some jet engines on each side to help it along a little bit. I didn't fly this particular type aircraft with the jet engines on it. But they had some there at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, so I thought I'd shoot a picture of it. This is the B-26 Marauder, the first B-26 built by Martin. It was supposed to be so dangerous, but I think what made it dangerous was the real greenhorns that were flying it. It just didn't put up with any foolishness. A very unforgiving airplane. Couldn't make any mistakes. And the B-36 over here. I don't remember the P-63, I think it was. P-63. Or P-61, one of those designated. Anyway, the nickname of it was the Black Widow. It was a night fighter. Here's the P-38. I wish I could have flown that airplane. There's two P-51s put together and made one airplane out of it. I don't know why they did that, but they thought it was worthwhile. The wing of a B-36 sticking out here with the pusher type engines on it. I'm pretty sure this is the P-63 here. Bel Air Cobra. King Cobra, this one is called. Here's a B-47. A Japanese aircraft. It looks bigger than a Japanese Zero, though. It might be the Jap Zero, but that looks too big to be the Jap Zero. As a C-141 built by Boeing. This is the B-36 wing again, and this was supposed to be a little thing that the B-36 would carry around, and if they were attacked, they could put a man in it and drop it out of the B-36, and it could go fight and then come back and hook back up to the airplane, and they'd draw it back up inside. That was the idea. It must not have worked out too well. It never got out of the experimental stage. Here's a vertical takeoff aircraft. Supposed to be able to take off and land in that position right there. It was successful, but never became operational. I forget what they call this, but it was another experimental type aircraft. It never got into service. But they made, I don't know how many they made. This might be the only one. This is an unmanned jet airplane. You can deliver the bomb and drop it, and there wasn't even a man on board. Here's a C-124 over here to the left side of the picture. This is at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is the home of the Golden Knights over there, which I had many missions with, dropping them out of the airplane and over there watching them work. There they are jumping out of the aircraft. We usually dropped them from about 11 to 12,000 feet, sometimes 13,000. Happened to be out on the drop zone when they were doing some practice jumps. And they actually guided that parachute, so they landed right at a target out there that wasn't any bigger around than the heel of your foot. This is Kinley Air Force Base on Bermuda. Had several trips out there. Yeah. This is the airstrip at Kinley Air Force Base, landing to the southwest here. This is the north end of Bermuda, and the Bermuda is only 21 miles long. We're on the ramp here at Kinley Air Force Base. I notice we got a Confederate flag hanging in the window. We're off. I'm off on another flying trip again. This is at Hill Air Force Base at Ogden, Utah. The aircraft is parked in front of operations there. This is the Naval Air Station at Whidbey, up there by north of Seattle a little ways. This is one of our refueling stops when we were going to Alaska. We were going to Alaska, a pre-planning type mission to arrange for the quarters, the gasoline, and all the other things involved in having meetings about our 2 weeks tour and what we're going to accomplish and that sort of thing. This is another refueling stop that we had planned on the way to Elmendorf Air Force Base at Anchorage, Alaska. This is Annette along the Alaskan coastline. This is near the Ketchikan area in Juneau, down in that department. This was our refueling stop on the way. And again, let's see, this was in 1962. This is Elmendorf Air Force Base, top cover for America. This sign is still there when we were in Alaska here in September of '97. When Lee and I went to Alaska, that is. This totem pole is still there too, but not at this location. And this was in November, part of the year. This is in front of base operations there on Elmendorf. This building there is still in the headquarters building there on Elmendorf. Looks pretty much the same. I think I know some of these guys. I should know them. They were part of the crew. Here's Kramer. That's Bud Barker. I think that's Dufour there. I'm not sure. I don't know these two guys over here. We were checking into the quarters up there. Can't recall his name. This is Ed Bottom. LeVere, navigator. I guess J.B. Cobb there. I can't tell who these other guys are up there. That's Andy Chaplin. Him and I flew together quite often in the C119. That's Nelson, our flight engineer. That's Bob Knight. You can see the ice out here on the windshield. We're flying through an icing condition up there, leaving Alaska on the way home. We're on the way back down to McCord Air Force Base, which is at Tacoma, Washington, and we had just left Elmendorf at Anchorage, Alaska. I think this is Yucatan airstrip up there along the Alaskan coastline. You can see all this glacier coming down through there. It was a nice, pretty day coming down the Alaskan coast, so I got some real pretty pictures here. Another one, I think that's that same glacier coming down through here, just another angle of it. That picture shows the icing conditions we were in. See the icing building up on the windshield wipers? On the aircraft, that's looking out the windshield. Some more Alaska scenery. On the base there at Elmendorf, they had a lot of property there, and they had some where they were kind of a recreation area, had some lakes and everything, and we went fishing up there. This is Tony Dupleshain here. I'm pretty sure that's Ed Bottom over there next to the lake area. Fishing for salmon. There's Ed Bottom. Bob Knight over here to the right, only I know that because I see the name tag on his clothes there. This is right after the earthquake that Alaska had up there in the 60s. And this condemned building is still there. You can see all the cracking going on in the building. I don't think it's leaning. I think that's just the way I took the picture. When we were up there here in September of '97, that building is still there. Boarded up, of course, but they've never torn it down. There's Bartlett, Paul Bartlett. Looks like Tony Dupleshain coming out of the bus. This is the Officers Club at Elmendorf Air Force Base. And it shows the mountains off in the distance. Fort Richardson is up against the mountains over there. That same Officers Club is there. Bob Knight went out to look at dogs. He brought back one of those husky dogs up there. Here's a reindeer in the foreground. These little huts out here is where the dogs stay. They got them scattered around all through the woods out there. Somebody took a shot out the tail section for me. Looking back towards Anchorage. We always had our pelican flag flying out of the top whenever we taxied in after landing or going out for takeoff. And this guy here, I forget his name, but he was a Channel 4 photographer that we took along up there. He was on our aircraft going up there, and he took lots of footage of film for the Alaska trip for Channel 4 in New Orleans. Again, getting off the bus up there in Alaska, here's Wick Cooper. Here's Tony Dupleshain. And there's Colvin, Chick Colvin. And I can't see who that is getting off the bus. This is downtown Anchorage as it looked back in 1962. The main street down through town. This is our maintenance hangar there on Elmendorf Air Force Base. I don't recognize any of the people there. That might be General Gusky with the sunglasses on. There's Bud Barker with his nose, thumb up to his nose. I don't recognize anybody else. At the Roach Coach,